The council chamber was silent. Too silent, if you ask me. You know that kind of quiet where everyone's thinking the same horrifying thought, but nobody wants to say it out loud? Yeah, that kind. I'm Vel'kari, by the way. Senior Tactical Advisor to the Galactic Coalition. Been doing this job for 73 cycles, and let me tell you, I've seen some things. Watched empires crumble. Witnessed species go extinct. Hell, I once saw a Rakthar try to eat a plasma grenade because he thought it was candy. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the day we had to add that stupid empty chair. We should remove it, High Commander Zorthek grumbled, his 3 eyes fixed on the vacant seat at the head of our war table. It mocks us. It warns us, countered Ambassador Lyssra, her scales shimmering that nervous purple color they do when she's stressed. Which, lately, was always, see that chair? That's Earth's chair. Terra. Sol 3. Whatever you want to call that ridiculous blue marble spinning out there in the unfashionable end of the galaxy. The planet we all agreed, unanimously, to never, ever mess with again. Let me back up 300 cycles ago. We didn't even know humans existed. They were tucked away in their little corner of space, doing their weird human things, completely oblivious to the galaxy's actual players. We had our wars, our alliances, our trade routes. The Vel'kari Empire controlled the northern quadrants. The Threxian Collective owned most of the resource-rich systems. And everyone else? We just tried not to get squashed in between. Then came the Vel'kari expansion. Emperor Krothnos, may his atoms scatter forever, decided he wanted more. Always more. Started pushing into unclaimed territories, absorbing primitive worlds, that sort of thing. Standard Imperial playbook, really. Nobody liked it, but nobody wanted to start a war over some backwater planets either, until he touched Earth. It was a misunderstanding, General Torvan said now, for probably the 1000th time. He'd been saying that since the incident. Still had nightmares, I'd heard. Our scouts reported a Class 4 civilization. Standard technology. Rudimentary space travel. No significant military capabilities. Your scouts, I said, leaning back in my chair, were idiots. Torvan's tentacles twitched. Touched a nerve. Good. Continue the briefing, Zorthek commanded, right. The briefing. We were here because the Kryllian Swarm was making moves again. Gathering forces. Testing borders. Acting exactly like the Vel'kari had before they poked the human beehive. And we needed to make sure, absolutely certain, that nobody did anything stupid. Hence the empty chair. The reminder. The Kryllians have amassed a fleet of 2,000 warships at the Outer Rim, Lyssra began, pulling up holographic displays. Intelligence suggests they're planning a major offensive within the next lunar cycle. Against, someone asked. Unknown. But they've been conducting surveillance sweeps near human trade routes. The room temperature dropped about 10 degrees. I swear I heard someone whimper. They wouldn't, Torvan whispered. Nobody could be that stupid. You were, I reminded him. Couldn't help myself. His face, all 4 cheek flaps, flushed deep purple. That was different. We didn't know. Exactly, Zorthek said, standing. His massive frame cast shadows across the war table. Which is why that chair stays. So we never forget what happens when someone doesn't know. Ambassador Lyssra pulled up another hologram. Earth. That beautiful, deadly little planet, rotating peacefully in the display. Looked so harmless, didn't it? Blue oceans. Green continents. White clouds. Like a paradise world you'd find in a tourism brochure. The Vel'kari thought so too. Play the transmission, Zorthek ordered. Don't know. Not again. I'd seen this recording 50 times. Didn't matter. Still gave me chills. The hologram shifted. Showed the Vel'kari First Fleet dropping out of hyperspace above Earth. 300 warships. Enough firepower to glass a dozen planets. They broadcasted their standard surrender ultimatum, expecting the humans to roll over like every other primitive species had. They got a response. All right. Just not the one they expected. To whoever you are, came a voice. Female. Calm. Almost bored sounding. Later we learned her name was Captain Rita Vance, commanding officer of Earth's Defense Station, Sentinel-7. You have 30 seconds to leave our solar system before we consider this an act of war. Your time starts now. The Vel'kari fleet commander had laughed. Actually laughed. You could hear it in the recording. 29 seconds later, Earth showed them what war meant to humans. I watched Torvan's face as the hologram replayed what came next. He looked away, like he always did. Couldn't blame him. His fleet had been there. Had seen it firsthand before they turned tail and ran. The Vel'kari fired first. Of course they did. Launched a full spread of quantum torpedoes at Earth's orbital stations. Should have been devastating. Should have been. Except every single torpedo detonated halfway to its target. Just exploded in space. Harmless. What in the void? The Vel'kari commander had said. Countermeasure deployment successful. Came another voice from Earth. Mail this time. All enemy ordnance neutralized. Recommend response level. Maximum. Captain Vance replied. And that's when everything went sideways. Human ships appeared. Dozens of them. From nowhere. Like they'd been hiding in folded space. Which, as we later learned, they absolutely had been. New technology. Experimental. Something about quantum displacement and dimensional pockets that our scientists still can't fully explain. The Vel'kari fleet lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 300 warships. Gone. Not destroyed. Not disabled. Gone. Human weapons didn't just damage ships. They erased them. Unmade them. Turned matter into energy so completely that our sensors couldn't even find debris. Cease fire. Captain Vance ordered. After those 7 minutes. Any Vel'kari vessels remaining have 30 seconds to retreat. This is your only warning. Emperor Krothnos, watching from his command ship safely in the rear, actually complied. Jumped to hyperspace so fast he probably broke his own ship's engines. The war lasted 6 more days. Earth didn't chase the Vel'kari. Didn't need to. They just waited until the Emperor tried to regroup, tried to mount a proper invasion, tried to save face. Then humans came to the Vel'kari homeworld. Just one ship. That's all it took. One ship. One. Single. Ship. The Vel'kari had defensive platforms. Orbital cannons. Shield generators that could withstand a supernova. Thousands of automated defense drones. A standing army of 2 billion soldiers. Their homeworld was a fortress. Impregnable. Unconquerable. Was. The human ship, they called it the Resolute, appeared in orbit at exactly 0600 local time. Broadcast one message. Just one. Surrender unconditionally within 1 hour, or we demonstrate why Earth doesn't need a second ship. Emperor Krothnos, stubborn fool that he was, refused. Activated every defense system. Called up every reserve unit. Swore he'd die before surrendering to primitives that he got his wish. 58 minutes later, the Resolute fired a single weapon. Later, our analysts would call it a planetary pacification device. Humans called it something simpler. A conscience bomb. It didn't destroy anything. Didn't kill anyone. Didn't even damage infrastructure. What it did was worse. So much worse. Every Vel'kari on the planet, all 9 billion of them, suddenly felt every death their empire had ever caused. Every civilian casualty. Every conquered species. Every atrocity. All at once. Complete empathic feedback delivered directly into their neural pathways. The Emperor dropped dead from psychological shock in 42 seconds. The rest of the population? They surrendered in under 5 minutes. Couldn't handle it. Can you imagine? Feeling the weight of 3 centuries of imperial conquest all at once. The guilt. The horror. The understanding of what they'd become. The Vel'kari Empire dissolved within a week. Voluntarily. They disbanded their military. Opened their borders. Started making reparations to every species they'd ever wronged. And humans? They just left. Went back to Earth. Didn't occupy. Didn't conquer. Didn't demand tribute. Just left. That's when the Galactic Coalition sent ambassadors. Had to know what we were dealing with. Had to understand these creatures who could end a war without firing more than once. I was part of that delegation. Biggest mistake, greatest honor of my life. You're remembering, LYSSRA said, pulling me back to the present. I can tell by that look on your face. Hard not to, I admitted. That first meeting changed everything. The hologram shifted again, showing Earth's United Nations building. Such a modest structure compared to our Grand Coalition towers. But inside those walls, sitting around that circular table, we met them. The humans. Face to face, Secretary General Marcus Webb led the human delegation. Average height for his species. Graying hair. Warm smile. Looked like somebody's grandfather. Talked like a seasoned diplomat who'd seen too much. Welcome to Earth, he'd said, shaking each of our appendages, hands, tentacles with genuine warmth. We appreciate you coming all this way. Can we offer you refreshments? Water? Coffee? We've got this excellent blend from Colombia. We declined. Too nervous. Here we were, representatives of civilizations thousands of cycles old, intimidated by a species that hadn't even mastered faster than light travel until 50 cycles ago. Let's address the obvious question, Webb had continued, settling into his chair. You want to know why we responded so aggressively to the Vel'kari incursion? That would be helpful, our lead ambassador, Kickstar, managed to say. Your military capability far exceeds our projections. Your technology surpasses anything we've encountered. And your restraint is frankly baffling. Webb had laughed. Actually laughed. Restraint, he said, shaking his head. You call what we did restraint. That's interesting. That's very interesting. You destroyed an empire without significant casualties, Kickstar pointed out. You could have eradicated them. Instead, you taught them. That demonstrates remarkable restraint. Or remarkable arrogance, Webb replied, but his eyes were kind. See, here's the thing about humans. We've been fighting each other for our entire history. Wars, genocides, conquests. We know violence. We understand it intimately. Maybe too intimately. He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's history. Battles, weapons, conflicts spanning millennia. We nearly destroyed ourselves, Webb continued quietly. Multiple times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, ecological collapse. We came this close to extinction at least a dozen times. So we learned, adapted, developed technologies not just to kill, but to stop killing. Because we knew, eventually, we'd meet others out here. And we didn't want our first impulse to be war. But you have such devastating weapons, I'd interjected. The conscience bomb alone could pacify the entire galaxy. Could, Webb agreed. Won't. That's the difference. We built these things as deterrents. Last resorts. The Vel'kari forced our hand. We responded proportionally. Proportionally. Kickstar's vocal sacs inflated with disbelief. You ended their empire. They invaded our homeworld, Webb said, and for the first time, his voice held an edge. Threatened our families. Our children. Our future. What would you have us do? Ask nicely for them to leave? Hope they'd respect our borders? No. We showed them the cost of aggression. Then we showed them mercy. Both lessons were necessary. The silence in that room had been absolute. We're inviting you, Webb continued, to establish formal diplomatic relations, trade agreements, cultural exchanges. We want to be part of this galactic community, but on one condition. Here it comes, I'd thought. The demands, the tributes, the subjugation. Leave us alone unless we ask for help, Webb said simply. Respect our sovereignty. Don't test our defenses. Don't threaten our people. Do that, and we'll be the best neighbors you could ask for. Fail to do that, and well, you've seen what happens. And that was it. That was the deal. The coalition agreed immediately, unanimously. We drafted the Earth Accords right there, established boundaries, set up communication protocols, and added one special provision. Earth gets a permanent seat at every major military council, every war table, every strategic planning session. The seat stays empty unless humans choose to fill it. It's a reminder, a warning, a promise. The Kryllians are fools if they ignore this, Zorthek said, his hand resting on the empty chair. But fools have started every major conflict in history. So what do we do? Torven asked. We can't control the Kryllian Swarm. Can't predict their actions. If they move against human interests, if they make the same mistake we did, then they learn the same lesson, I said. The hard way. LYSSRA pulled up new intelligence reports. Our sources indicate the Kryllian Hive Queen believes humans are bluffing. That the Vel'kari incident was propaganda. Exaggerated. Of course she does, I sighed. Nobody ever believes the warnings. They have to see for themselves. Should we contact Earth? Someone asked. Warn them about the Kryllian buildup? Zorthek considered this. Looked at the empty chair. Then shook his head. No, he decided. Humans have better intelligence networks than we do. They already know. They're already watching. And they're already prepared. How can you be certain? Torvan pressed. A slight smile crossed Zorthek's face. Rare sight, that. Because, he said, gesturing to a new display. 3 human vessels just appeared at the edge of Kryllian space. They've been there for 2 days. Just sitting there. Watching. Waiting. The hologram showed 3 ships. Sleek. Dark. Silent, waiting. The Kryllian Hive Queen didn't wait long to make her move. Arrogance, you see, is a universal constant. Doesn't matter what species you are. Doesn't matter how many legs or eyes or brain lobes you've got. Pride makes everyone stupid eventually. Incoming transmission, the communications officer announced, all 6 of his ear stalks quivering. It's from the Kryllian flagship. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Zorthek commanded. The hologram shimmered. Then she appeared. Hive Queen Shrakath. Massive, armored. Her mandibles clicking in what passed for Kryllian laughter. Greetings, Coalition cowards, she began. What a charmer. I see you've gathered to discuss my fleet. How thoughtful. Let me save you some time. The Kryllian Swarm acknowledges no authority but strength. No law but survival. No border but what we choose to respect. LYSSRA's scales flashed angry crimson. You're in violation of 17 treaties, Hive Queen. The Coalition will not tolerate aggressive expansion into protected space. Protected, Shrakath repeated, her laughter growing louder. By whom? Your pathetic defense forces? Your outdated vessels? Please. The swarm has evolved beyond your capacity to resist. We take what we want, starting with the human trade routes. Every being in the room went absolutely still. I wouldn't, I said quietly. Seriously, really wouldn't. And who are you to warn a Hive Queen? Shrakath demanded. Some minor functionary? Some bureaucrat playing at strategy? The swarm fears nothing. Not even humans. Zorthek asked. Especially not humans, Shrakath said. And here's where it got interesting. We've studied your precious Earth. Analyzed their so-called victory over the Vel'kari. You want to know what we found? Exaggeration. Propaganda. Carefully edited footage designed to intimidate lesser species. The Vel'kari were weak. Decadent. They collapsed because they'd grown soft. The swarm is different. We are legion. We are inevitable. We are hungry. You're about to be extinct, I muttered, but she wasn't finished. In 6 hours, Shrakath continued, my fleet will enter the Tychus sector. Human freighters operate there. They will surrender their cargo, submit to swarm authority, or they will be consumed. This is not negotiable. This is not debatable. This is simply what will happen. And the Coalition will do nothing. Because you cannot stop us. The transmission cut out. The room erupted. Everyone talking at once. Panic. Anger. Fear. The usual chaos when somebody does something monumentally stupid. We have to warn Earth, LYSSRA said urgently. Give them time to evacuate the sector. Prepare defenses. Something. Too late, Torvand said, studying his tactical display. The Kryllian fleet is already moving. 2,000 warships. They'll reach Tychus in 5 hours and 40 minutes. And the human ships? Zorthek asked. Still waiting. Still watching. Still silent. I pulled up Earth's diplomatic channel. Direct line to the United Nations. Secretary General Webb had retired cycles ago, replaced by Director Amara Okonkwo. Sharp woman. Military background. Didn't smile as much as Webb, but her eyes held the same quiet confidence that all humans seem to possess. Director Okonkwo, I said when her face appeared on screen. We have a situation. The Kryllians, she said. Not a question. Statement. Yes, we're aware. They've been broadcasting their intentions across 17 systems. Very theatrical. Very confident. Very doomed. You're not evacuating the Tychus sector. Why would we? Our freighters have every right to operate in neutral space. They're conducting legitimate trade, paying their tariffs, following all established protocols. But the swarm, I started. We'll learn. Okonkwo interrupted gently. Just like the Vel'kari learned. Just like every aggressor learns eventually. We really wish they wouldn't force the issue. We genuinely prefer peace. But if they insist on violence, well, we're prepared for that too. How prepared? LYSSRA asked. Leaning into view, Okonkwo smiled. Finally. But it wasn't warm like Webb's had been. This was something else. Something predatory. Very, she said simply. We'll handle this. But Ambassador Vexlar, could you do us a favor? Anything, I said. Record what happens. Add it to your archives. Share it with the Coalition. Because apparently, one demonstration wasn't enough. Apparently, the galaxy needs a reminder every few centuries. So let's make this one count. The transmission ended 0.5 hours and 37 minutes later. The Kryllian Swarm entered the Tychus sector. 2,000 warships. Enough biomechanical firepower to sterilize 100 worlds. They found 6 human freighters. Unarmed. Unescorted. Just going about their business. Hive Queen Shrakath broadcast her ultimatum. Surrender. Submit. Or die. The freighter captains responded. This is Captain Lisa Torres of the merchant vessel Endeavor. We acknowledge your transmission. We decline your terms. We recommend you leave immediately. You decline. Shrakath's disbelief was palpable even across the void. You dare refuse the swarm? 6 vessels against 2,000? You're either brave or insane. Neither, Torres replied. Just informed. You have 30 seconds to withdraw. Fair warning. We don't want to do this. The Kryllians opened fire. That's when the humans stopped being polite. Those 3 vessels that had been waiting at the edge of Kryllian space? They'd moved. Silently. Invisibly. Were already in position, surrounding the swarm fleet. And they weren't alone. 47 more human warships appeared from folded space. Materialized like ghosts. Surrounded the Kryllian formation completely. Final warning. Came a new voice. Admiral Jackson Reeves, commander of Earth's 3rd Fleet. Power down your weapons. Surrender immediately. You will not be harmed if you comply. Shrakath, because she was an idiot, ordered her fleet to attack. The battle lasted 90 seconds, not minutes. Seconds, human weapons fired. Different technology this time. Not the matter erasure systems they'd used on the Vel'kari. Something new. Something worse. Nanotechnology weapons that didn't destroy ships. They converted them. Reprogrammed their systems. Turned Kryllian vessels into inert, non-functional debris still occupied by very much alive, very terrified Kryllians. 2,000 warships. 90 seconds. All disabled. Crews unharmed but completely helpless. Hive Queen Shrakath, Admiral Reeves said calmly. You are now a prisoner of war. Your fleet is neutralized. Your crews are unharmed. You will be returned to your homeworld along with a message. Are you ready to receive that message? Silence. Then, quietly, yes. Good. The message is simple. Earth wants peace. Earth prefers trade over war. Cooperation over conflict. But Earth will not tolerate aggression. Will not accept threats. Will not permit violence against our people or our interests. You tested us. You lost. Learn from this. Grow from this. Become better. Or next time, we won't be so gentle. Understood. Understood, Shrakath whispered. The human fleet towed the disabled Kryllian vessels back to their space. Released them. Left them there with their shame and their fear and their new understanding of how the galaxy actually worked. And just like that, it was over. Back in the council chamber, we watched the recordings in absolute silence. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. We just sat there, staring at that empty chair. I recommend, Zorthek finally said, that we update our educational materials. Every military academy, every diplomatic school, every command center. They need to understand what that chair represents. What does it represent? Someone asked, and I stood up. Walked over to the empty seat. Placed my hand on the backrest. It represents the species that could conquer the galaxy in a week, but chooses not to. The civilization that builds weapons of peace instead of destruction. The people who win wars in seconds, but spend decades building friendships. It represents humanity. And it stays empty as a reminder that the most dangerous beings in the galaxy are the ones who don't want to fight. And if that chair ever gets filled, LYSSRA asked quietly. Then we listen, Zorthek said. We listen very carefully. Because if humans feel the need to actually attend our war councils, it means something terrible is coming. Something that scares them. And if it scares humans, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. We all understood. The empty chair stays empty. Not because humans are absent, but because they're watching. Always ready. Always hoping they won't be needed. That's the thing about Earth. They don't want a seat at the war table. They just want to make sure nobody needs one. And that, my friends, is why there's a permanent empty seat reserved for Earth at every war table in the galaxy. Not as a trophy, not as a symbol of conquest, but as a reminder that the greatest warriors are the ones who choose not to fight until they absolutely must. And when they must, well, you've heard what happens. Sleep well tonight, knowing humans are out there, watching the borders, keeping the peace, hoping, always hoping, that their chair stays empty, because the day it doesn't, that's the day the galaxy learns what real war looks like. And trust me, you don't want that lesson. None of us do.